Namaskar, welcome to this special edition of Wide Angle with Ashok Vyas. And what makes it special is the presence of someone who already is special, and then he added some more special colors to his series of achievements, being a motivational speaker, author, trainer, and author of books like Bound to Rise and I Will Survive. Lives up to the title of these books by running marathon again and again and again. So I have the pleasure of welcoming my friend Sunil Robert to our studio. Namaste, Sunil. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
So Sunil, do me a favor. Why don't you hold your special
Medals.
medals? Yes, sir.
Marathoners run just for these.
Wow. So one is New York City half, and another one is from Jerusalem.
Jerusalem, yes.
So, and both of them were of the same length.
Yes, both are half marathons and both ran in a span of 5 days. So the reason this weekend or last week was special is because New York City was Sunday, and 5 days later on a Friday, I was in Jerusalem running this half marathon. The reason we chase these back-to-back races is just the joy and the thrill of pushing your body beyond what people consider limits. And you talk to any, in fact, there's a running joke among marathoners that how do you tell if somebody is a marathoner? You don't tell, give them 2 minutes, they'll start bragging that they are runners. So marathoners are a very unique bunch of people in my view.
So anybody can join the club, or you cannot join the club. We'll find out from Sunil ji, learning that he started running marathon at the age of 43. And why that happened? What made you consider that race?
For many people, running is a very boring sport. And even I used to think, what is there in running? I mean, there's no goals that you score on. There are no basket hoops that you put a ball through. What's there? People just keep running. It's such a boring sport. That was very foolish and ignorant of me to have that view. But what happened was a series of circumstances, but the primary one being I started developing hypertension and borderline obesity because of a very sedentary lifestyle following a motorbike accident when I was in India. Doctor said, he won't be able to play any sports because a big part of my right knee was surgically removed, which means my load bearing capacity on my right knee was down to about 20%. I could not stand firmly on both my feet. So the doctor said, forget sports, you can't even walk without a limp. So a limp was very pronounced, and obesity and hypertension. So at the age of 43, I was in a very depressing type of a phase from a personality standpoint. Everything else was going well, job was going well, everything was, but there was one side of me that was very incomplete, out of shape. Around that time, I met a couple of individuals who made a big difference, and that set me up on this journey of running. I thought, let me take a shot at it, one race. I did it. I felt good.
Okay, so forgive me for interrupting you, but I think this particular transition phase is very important for anyone who is watching, including me. What was it that gave you the conviction or the strong motivation that you should make an attempt? Because your mind keeps on telling you that I won't be able to do
Correct.
it. So
yeah, so you're absolutely right. I thought I'm over the hill. My past is gone. My Javani is gone, and now I'm in my early 40s. What is there to do about fitness? Kisko impress karna hai? You live, you take it one day at a time. You know, that was the kind of mindset. And being from Hyderabad origin, and my wife is a gifted chef, we are used to eating spicy food, biryanis and chais, endless chais, which just adds up to your bad lifestyle. But it just started taking a toll on me, and I started yearning for a better lifestyle. So that it starts with the yearning. I'm sure that it must be better. Around that time, I met two outstanding individuals. One was a 78-year-old writer who came to visit me in New Jersey. His name is Cecil Murphy. He wrote about 50 books, including a couple of bestsellers. And he was somebody I met in Hyderabad, and he wanted to mentor me in my writing journey. So he looked at my life, he stayed with us one weekend and he said, Sunil, at the rate you are going, when you die, put my name down as one of the pallbearers or the coffin
Oh,
lifters.
man.
The 78-year-old telling a 42-year-old कि भैया तू मरने वाला है, when put me down as one of the, and he had every right to say it because at 78 in New Jersey when he came to visit me, he went out in the cold weather and ran 4 to 5 miles every day in that weekend, 3-4 days. So he just showed a mirror to me saying your lifestyle is not the way it should be. You better get your life right. The second defining incident happened when the CEO of our company, the company TCS that I'm wearing, the CEO of that company came to New York City to run a marathon.
Oh man.
And he ran a marathon. Next day he came to have an employees meeting. You know, generally people who run a small race also, next day they are like hemming and hawing and in pain, they're groaning and whining. But this man ran a marathon next day, stood there, gave a 45-minute speech, stood there for another hour and a half to give question and answers. And one of the questions that a young lady asked him is, at that time our company was $16 billion. You're a CEO of a $16 billion company. How can you make time for running? He said, if I can't make time for my running, I won't be able to run the company efficiently. And those two incidents, that Cecil Murphy incident and our CEO Chandra's incident, really gave me an epiphany. And I said, if these guys at this age, one is an elderly guy and one is a busy executive, they both can take time to run and take care of their body, I have to get my life together.
So Sunil, here's a question from someone who is watching those who are running. He never makes an attempt. That's this guy. And they think that after some time your mind start talking to you that there are many thoughts which are ready to kind of engage you. So how it works in your case while you're running? What do you do with your thinking
Negative,
machine?
yeah. So the first thing was, I never ran before. I used to go to the gym and lift weights and stuff, but I never ran before. So for me, can I run for 5 minutes on a treadmill? So I started with a treadmill. And then my biggest fear was, what if I fall off the treadmill because my leg wasn't able to hold me up? You'll be embarrassed in front of all the other gym members. What will the ladies or others they'll think? All sorts of fears start. And what if I get hurt in the process again? And again, I have to go to the doctor. So all sorts of anxieties start creeping. So I set very modest goals initially. I said, first let me try for 3 minutes. Let me try for 5 minutes. And then let me get to 1 mile, which is like 15 minutes. Once I started getting the confidence that incrementally I can start getting better, see, that's the thing about running. Running is a very incremental sport. The first marathon I ever did, half marathon, was 2 hours 45 minutes. So that becomes the first. You finished it, but everything else starts on a quest for becoming your personal best, your record. So for example, the New York one I did in 2 hours 27, which for my age group is much better for somebody who has a health condition like my leg. So in the last 10 years, for example, I've become such an avid runner that now it's only question of records.
Okay, so let me ask you in terms of while you are running, and those who don't run regularly, they also have a feeling that if you start running after a little while, you feel like stopping and maybe you start walking fast, and that's the normal thing. Is it similar for marathon runners?
It is. So ultimately, it's all about managing your battery power, so to speak. Let's say you're human. That's why the full marathon, which is 26 miles, people said a human tank or a human heart, human body can only allow people to run up till 20 miles. The rest of the 6 miles is run on pure willpower, pure mental power. So people hit the wall, they call it the wall, at 20 or 21 miles, which means their physical energy is depleted. From there, it's the mind that carries them. So it's a question of how strong are you mentally and how strong are you physically. So obviously you have to train. For a full marathon, we train about 3 to 4 months, like every weekend running, long runs, couple of runs in the week. For a short run like this, what I did, it's 2.5 months of training. But in that training too, there are some bad days and there are some good days. Like you said, there'll be days where you feel, it's not going well. And then you sort of slow down.
So let's take a look at your training schedule. So while you are training yourself for 2.5 months, typically on a particular day on weekend, like you are running where, and do you pay special attention to what you are eating before and after?
Yes, particularly the midweek runs are normal. We don't pay any particular attention because they are short runs, 3 miles, 5 miles, 6 miles at best. They are the regular runs. But the weekend run, which is 8 miles, 9 miles or 10 miles, we pay particular attention to what we eat the previous night or the previous day and what we carry when we go for that run. It's called hydration on the move or hydration on the run or refueling on the run. So we get all these gel packets which have protein shakes in them, the energy gels like Gatorade and all these products that they make. So we carry them in our pocket. So it becomes after a while like, astronauts training for space or, army folks training for battle, because we carry that runner's belt with water in it. And in some cases, particularly when I'm training for the full marathon, I go the previous night and leave bananas and water bottles in mile 8, mile 7.
Beautiful.
And then drive back and start the run, because by the time you get to mile 8, if your water bottle is empty, then you need some place to refuel or rehydrate.
So you do this training as a team or you do it by yourself?
Running is mostly a solitary sport. I do it alone. But of late, I've joined a couple of groups where it is becoming possible to collaborate in groups. Thankfully, there is in the last 10-15 years a resurgence of runners both in South Asian community and generally in this area. So there are more and more runners now. But for the most part, initially I used to feel shy. What if the other guy is faster than me and I slow him down? You feel a little shy and awkward about not letting that person feel, he's slowing me down, right? So I try to run alone, and only when I'm confident that I can keep pace with that person, I'll go for a joint run. But what I'm now doing is I'm training others. So even if they're running faster than me, I'm psychologically under no pressure because I'm helping them get better. So
beautiful. So let me bring some of you back to where we are in terms of talking to this gentleman who is inspiring in multiple ways, being an author and speaker, and his books are also Bound to Rise and I Will Survive, and he has survived many things. Right now, as we speak to Sunil Robert, we are talking about his recent accomplishments in half marathon here in New York City on Sunday and at Jerusalem on Friday. So let me take you to Jerusalem. Was it your first visit? You have been there, and how was it once you reach there? And when you are at a new place, you need to kind of acclimatize yourself with the environment and know the track, etc. So talk to me about how you sort of worked on it.
So New York City was familiar ground, ran the race many times before, but Jerusalem was a first time. And Jerusalem was a first time, and we picked Jerusalem because it was a very tough race. Many people go to Jerusalem because it's the birthplace of Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. But for me, the motivation was it's a tough race. It's like a bit like Boston. Boston is one of the toughest in America. And in fact, the Boston Marathon is a very tough race around the world. Jerusalem is a lot like Boston, full of hills. Jerusalem as a city is built around mountains. It nestles in and around mountains. So for 400-500 meters, you go up the slope, and then there is exactly a downhill all along. And we didn't get a chance to acclimatize it. When I look at the course map, it is called a course map. All the runners study it. They make plans and strategies, how to go about each hill. They exactly know which mile or which kilometer, in this case, was a long hill coming and stuff. So we didn't get a chance to acclimatize. That's why my New York race was much faster than my Jerusalem race, because we didn't get a chance to acclimatize. I just went there on Tuesday. One day was quarantine, 24-hour mandatory quarantine. So we barely got a chance to get acclimatized. What made it even worse was Jerusalem was having its worst rain in 200 years for the March last week weather. So you combine sub-zero cold weather and rain, and slippery roads and wet clothes, you have a disaster for for a runner, because your shoes are slipping inside. The socks get wet, and it doesn't have enough traction to hold the grip. And so when you're taking those steps, you're careful not to slip or slide over a pool of water, what we call in hydroplaning in cars, right? When you go through, you lose control. So many people, I'm sure, just aim to finish the race, and I also aim to finish strong.
So show that medal again. And when you finally got this medal, what was the feeling like, and who was the first one to congratulate you?
Oh, it was great, because what we finished, the half marathon finished, and the volunteers give me the medal. And I was walking towards, and I met another young lady from New Jersey who had come.
Wow.
And she said, of course, she finished much ahead of me, younger person, strong legs, I'm sure. So she was just a pleasure to talk to. But more than anything, the highlight of Jerusalem Marathon was, this year the women's race was won by a young lady called Valentina Versetka. She's a Ukrainian refugee.
Oh, wow.
Who came to Israel to run. So in a very, very inspiring setting, this young lady finished the full marathon, which is 42 kilometers or 26 miles, in 2 hours 35 or something.
Man.
And she was holding a Ukrainian flag and an Israeli flag, and it was a moment for us to witness, because in all the sad happenings of war and all that, you see one refugee trying to achieve her potential and achieve it on a world stage. So we saw her live, and to me that finish was a fantastic finish, Ashok.
And because it's recent, so how was New York marathon, half marathon that you ran this time? Because I believe after COVID, this is the first time that New Yorkers got to experience it.
The half marathon, yes. On November 7th, we ran the full marathon. That was fantastic. But that was still a very staged event. The race was only half the people. Instead of the 50,000, they only allowed 25,000. So the numbers were low in New York. And people were also unsure of coming out. But with Omicron completely sort of subdued now, the United Half was one of the best races. Times Square gets shut down for this race. The only time other than New York, New Year's Eve, other than that, they shut down the entire Times Square. The crowd was full on. There were 30,000 runners. It was great as we entered Central Park.
So the energy in New York and Jerusalem as a runner, what is it that you feel you can sort of pinpoint?
New York is just hands down the winner. Jerusalem was great. Because of the rain, possibly a lot of people didn't come out. The volunteers who were there with all the rain ponchos and raincoats, they did an excellent job in executing the race. We must realize that some of these races are also tourism attractions for people. People come from all over the world to New York to run. People went to Jerusalem from all over the world like us. So it's the organizers and the volunteers that put in a lot of hard work. We just go there and run and feel happy about it, but it takes a tremendous amount of effort. But New York, the unique thing is, whether you're running or not, the crowd out there is so inspirational, Ashokji. Cops, for example, they are just there cheering, making sure the security is provided, and I think every big city that hosts comes together that day, and we see a different side of. Normally you associate New Yorkers with rash driving and aggression and all that, but on the race day you see a completely different side of New York City. You see a more cheerful, sporty, human side of their nature that should get shown. And we as runners feel very privileged, because if you think of it, every runner is treated like an athlete, like an Olympic athlete. I mean, this is the only sport where you are allowed to feel like an Olympic athlete.
I think that feeling is also resulting into marathon race becoming a kind of festive celebration, and the spirit of those who are running as well as those who are witnessing
cheering
this human, call it excellence, or human spirit that wants to overcome all the limitations, and you yourself have realized that. So there are some professional marathon runners and there are some lifestyle runners like you. What do you think is major difference in terms of, call it a feeling for them?
So I think in terms of, I think this is the only sport, maybe golf comes a second close, but this is the only sport where you run the same race with the elite runners. Eliud Kipchoge, the current number one, the world champion, he finishes the race in 2 hours. Whereas some of us finish it in 5, some of us finish in less than 4, some people do it in under 3, some people do 3:30. No matter what your record is, what matters is whether you're finishing it or not. So there are only, in a runner's jargon, there are only 2 kinds of people. Those who finish the race, no matter what the time, and then there's a second category called DNF, did not finish. If let's say somebody had a bad fall or somebody had a bad injury, they had a medical condition that happened during the race, they did not finish. So as long as we finished, you're as good as Eliud Kipchoge, who's the world number 1. That's the way we celebrate this.
And so really, before we started talking for camera, you were mentioning about Thomas, who from Poland came and you met him, and I mean he has set out very interesting and fascinating goal for himself. Talk to us about him.
This young runner that I met, his name is Thomas and is from Poland. His website is 249challenge.com, www.249challenge.com. The interesting thing is he's setting out to run in all the countries of the world and some unusual cities of the world. And he's a lifestyle runner. Sometimes he gets sponsors, sometimes he doesn't. This is his full-time job. And to me, I was fascinated. I was thinking, oh, I've done about 10 full marathons and maybe 20 half marathons. And I was feeling proud of myself. And here is this young man who says, I'm going to run in all the countries of the world.
Man.
So inspiring. That had me reset my own goals. Now I'm running to finish in all the 7 continents first. So far I've done North America, I've done Europe, I've done Asia. Now I have India, Asia, I'm counting as then Africa.
No, I'm asking you specifically, have you run in India?
Yes, I have run half marathons in India, and I'm also hoping to do one full marathon in Mumbai. Amazing set of goals for a lifestyle runner, because for me, I'll combine my travel interest as well as running. So instead of just going to a new country and a new city, if I link it to a marathon, I'll be able to see the city better. I'll be able to connect with the people in a more deeper way, take a portion of their culture back with me, and I'm a richer person for that.
You definitely are richer, and you made us richer by sharing this valuable experience, which is enriching and inspiring both. And as we conclude, in your sort of understanding, what is the age range that you would say, let's say if a child is listening to Sunil uncle or Sunil ji, he feels that, oh, if he is running, I will run. And now this guy is 9 years old. So do you recommend something?
Yes, you can start as early as you can. You should start with 5Ks, for example. Every school teaches children here to run a 1 mile. So you start doing that 1 miler, and if you get to 3, you can start doing a 5K. And 5Ks generally encourage younger children as well, under 12, under 14, 5Ks and 10Ks. My older boy, when he was 16 and 17, we made him run the half marathon along with us. It's just a great experience for him to just check it off the list that I've run a half marathon. If he picks it up and he starts loving it later, great. But at least we've exposed him to it. So I think you should start small. Running is a great sport. The only thing you'll need is a pair of shoes. No extravagant equipment needed. And you don't need a team to play with. You just need a space and time to run, and you're all set for this sport.
And in last 1 minute, I'll request you to take something from your book. When I say from your book, meaning anything that you feel would help our viewers in reaching to that mindset, which would help them sincerely consider of maybe becoming a marathon runner.
In the last 12 years that I've been running, my energy levels, my stamina, the quality of life I've lived is twice or more better than the first 40 years, which I did not take good advantage of my energies. The last 13 years have been the most fulfilling, physically energetic years of my life. I was able to achieve a lot more. And so if you want to, I'm driven by the mantra, it's not how many years you live, but how many years of life you put in those years that matters.
Which is not how many years you live, but how many
how much of life
you put in those years, that matters. And it was incredible listening to you. And while I am inspired, I'm sure some of you also were resonating with his approach towards marathon as well as towards life. And we share one thing in common with him, and that is our mind. The way we make use of it makes all the difference. So, Sunil, lots of good wishes. Congratulations. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
With joy, as I thank Sunil Robert, I thank all of you for being a part of this inspiring conversation. This is Ashok Vyas.